Good afternoon. So what you're looking at there is my first year university calculus textbook cover. About 15 years ago, roughly 600 engineering undergrad students were handed that textbook, and your slide clicker does not work. There we go. And we were all plopped into this beautiful building. It's called War Memorial Hall, and we sat there and we learned calculus. Didn't really know what we were doing, but we were good at it. We did the tests, we wrote the exams, we studied really hard, and I kicked ass. I got a 93 in calculus. It was awesome. I really knew how to do calculus. I could solve the problems, I could recite theories, I could do proofs. It was fantastic. And so that summer, when I finished school, finished my first year of school, I went back home. And I remember I did something that you usually don't do in university, but I showed my folks my report card. And so 93 was my highest mark. And my mother was like, "That's amazing. So what is calculus?" I was like, "It's math, it's complicated. You wouldn't really understand it." And as I thought more about it, I had no, am I allowed to swear? I had no clue. I really didn't actually know what calculus was. If you put a calculus exam in front of me, I'd destroy it. I could do all the problems. I could help my friends study. I could let them copy off of my test if I needed to. But I didn't actually know what it was. And so I just told my mom she wouldn't understand it. And I didn't really even think about it at the time. And so a couple of years later, I was broke. I was a third or fourth year university student, tuition, rent, a beer or two every once in a while. And so I decided I need to make a little money. So I tried to find my original poster for you, but I couldn't find it, unfortunately. But I started my own little tutoring thing. Because I thought about physics, calculus, chemistry. I rocked all those courses in first year. I could totally just teach someone else how to do it. And so I did that. I made a poster that looks very much like this. I put them all over campus. I got some students. And I just started teaching. And physics was kind of where I built my name and I built my brand. I was like the physics guy. You didn't understand how to do mechanics? Come see Ramy. He'll get you there. And so I did it for a whole year. And then one of my students, I don't know her name anymore. I don't remember what she looks like, but she had a profound impact on me. We were going through this exact page. And these are equations of motion. So we're going to get a little bit technical here. What we have is basically an object that is being accelerated at a constant rate. This is how the object moves through space. This is the object's speed, and that's the object's acceleration. It's okay if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this was a physics class, and that's the most important part. And while working through some of these problems with this girl, let's call her Jenny. Jenny and I kind of noticed something. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is calculus. This isn't physics. That second graph is just the derivative of the first one, and the third graph is just the derivative of the second one. And again, it doesn't matter if you know what that means, but the point is, there was this relationship between calculus and physics that no one had ever told me about. And it wasn't even Jenny that told me about it. I just kind of noticed it. And for the next roughly 20 minutes in our tutoring session, I was talking at about 200 miles an hour about how exciting this was. You could actually probably see a light bulb shining above my head that had clicked on. And I, for the first time, understood calculus. Now, I'd been teaching it for over a year. I ended up TAing calculus and physics as a result of my tutoring. But up until that day, I still had no clue what it was. And so this amazing moment happened to me. Now, if we were to find our friend we're going to call Jenny today, I guarantee you she wouldn't remember me. She also probably has no clue how to solve a calculus problem. She doesn't remember any of what I just told you, but I do. And that's the important part to me. By teaching her, I actually understood it on a whole new level. Like, I really got it. Like, I went to a point of seeing these graphs to seeing just like excitement about calculus. Like, if you come and talk to me afterwards, like, I get really passionate about it. I think it's the most beautiful mathematic thing we have. And that all came as a result of teaching someone else. And so that kind of got me thinking quite a bit. And there is a whole ton of really important and boring research about peer learning. This is the cone of learning. not going to tell you about it, but it's really important and it's really boring. But it basically says that the more involved you are in the learning process, the more you get it. This is a whole bunch of random research about peer learning programs. And again, I don't know what most of this means, but the bottom line is peer learning works. And so it's something that I've experienced in my life through this sort of very personal, important moment, but it's also true according to other people. And that kind of led me to thinking about how do we actually teach? How do our classrooms work? And do they work? Really is the big question. And I'm working on my own little project related to peer learning. I really don't want to talk to you about that. I don't want to sell you on it, but I want to tell you a little bit about some of the ways that teachers and educators and parents and friends and kids now can actually embrace some of this, because the tools are out there. These numbers vary quite a bit, but the most consistent number I could find was sort of mid-70s percentage of how many high school students have cell phones now, and that number is only going up. Those cell phones all have video cameras in them, and every single day there are 35,000 hours of video uploaded to YouTube. Granted, 32,000 of those are cat videos, another 2,000 are drunk videos, but that last 1,000, there's some really good stuff in there. The other numbers there actually are related to something kind of tangential. You're probably familiar with the Khan Academy. It's sort of an online school concept thing started by a guy named Salman Khan. There's over 3,300 videos on that site, khanacademy.org, and they've been viewed 143 million times. And so video is a really powerful tool in the classroom, but I don't think it needs to be consumed. In fact, I don't think students watching someone else's video about it is even the right approach. What I would love to see, and what I think we have the capacity to do, is for students to create their own content. Even if no one ever watches it, the act of teaching, the act of creating that lesson, creating that learning, teaches them. And I experienced that myself. The best part is, this stuff is already happening. The tools are out there now to enable a lot of this. I'm somewhat involved with an organization called TED. Most of you here probably know of TED or TED Talks. TED recently launched a platform called TED and essentially what you can do is you can take any video content and create a lesson out of it. You can flip that video into a lesson, you can add quiz questions, and that's not just TED Talks, that's any video on the internet. So you can create your own video and actually create lesson plans out of it. YouTube has recently have a teachers and schools program. That link is either /teachers or /schools. They end up taking you to the same place, but there's two different versions. It's incredibly powerful, and it's almost like a curated version of YouTube dedicated for educators. Khan Academy is a fantastic resource as a starting point, and then there's a site that I just discovered a few weeks ago called kidsteachingkids.org, and it is a tremendous resource to enable peer learning. And it's all about finding the tools and the resources to have students create their own lessons and kind of figure it out as they go. And it's a very different approach, and it just doesn't matter if anyone watches it. It doesn't matter if they've taught anyone. The act of teaching, I think, is really the most important part. It's what I learned when I discovered the beauty of calculus, and I'm probably the only person in this room who thinks calculus is this magical thing, but it really is, and it was only through passing that knowledge on to someone else that clicked for me. So in closing, all I'd ask you to do as educators, as teachers, as learners, is kind of consider the importance of sharing the knowledge that you've learned for yourself. Thanks so much.